Hi everyone, I'm Josh. Welcome back to Learn English Podcast 360. Today I have a story for you. There was a letter he wrote many years ago. He read it again and again, sometimes late at night when the world was quiet, sometimes early in the morning before the sun came up. The paper had become soft at the edges, and the ink was not as dark as it used to be. But the words were still there, clear and honest. And yet, he never sent it. Not because he forgot. In fact, he remembered it very well. Not because he didn't care. But sometimes, the hardest thing in life is not saying goodbye. It is saying what you truly feel, or when you are afraid it might already be too late. And today I want to tell you his story. His name was Daniel. He was an ordinary man in his mid-30s, living alone in a small apartment in the city. His life was simple and quiet. Every morning he woke up at the same time, made himself a cup of coffee, and sat by the window for a few minutes before going to work. He liked the small moment of silence. It was the only time of the day when everything felt still. From the outside, Daniel's life looked stable. He had a steady job, a clean place to live, and a routine that never changed. People at work saw him as calm and reliable. He did his job well, spoke when needed, and rarely caused any trouble. But if you looked a little deeper, you might notice something else. There was a quiet weight inside him, something he never talked about. In a small drawer beside his bed, there was an old envelope. It was nothing special. No name on the outside, no stamp, no address. Just a simple envelope that had been opened and closed many times. Inside it was a letter, carefully folded, as if it was something important. The edges were slightly worn, and there were small lines where the paper had been folded over and over again. Daniel did not open it every day. Sometimes weeks would pass, and he would not think about it at all. But then on certain nights, when he could not sleep or when something reminded him of the past, he would take it out slowly, sit on the edge of his bed, and read it again. It was not a long letter. In fact, it was quite simple. The words were easy to understand. No big or complex language, but it was the most honest thing Daniel had ever written in his life. He wrote that letter when he was 22 years old, at a time when everything felt uncertain and full of emotion. It was the night before he left his hometown. Back then, he believed he had all the time in the world. He thought life was long, that people would always be there. But life does not always work that way. The letter was for his father. When Daniel was a child, his father was always there, but never really close. He was a quiet man, strong in his own way, but not someone who showed his feelings easily. He worked long hours every day, often coming home late, tired but silent. He did what needed to be done, fixing things around the house, paying the bills, making sure everything was in place. But he rarely spoke about how he felt. He never said, "I'm proud of you." He never said, "I love you." And for a young boy like Daniel, that silence slowly turned into doubt. Daniel began to think that his father did not care, that maybe he was not good enough, that maybe nothing he did really mattered. As the years passed, the distance between them grew. They spoke less and less. Small disagreements turned into quiet tension. Instead of talking things out, they avoided each other. Meals were quiet. Even simple conversations felt heavy. Daniel wanted to be understood, but he did not know how to say it. And his father, in his own way, may have wanted the same thing. But neither of them knew how to break the silence. Then one day, after another small argument that felt bigger than it really was, Daniel made a decision. He told himself that he needed to leave, that he needed space, that maybe things would be better if he just walked away. He packed his bags, slowly at first, then faster, as if he did not want to think too much about it. When he was done, he stood at the door for a moment. The house felt strangely quiet. His father was there, standing a few steps away, but neither of them said anything. There were so many words in that moment, but none of them were spoken. And then Daniel left. He closed the door behind him and walked away without looking back. That night, in a small rented room in another city, Daniel lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. The room was empty, unfamiliar, and cold. He thought he would feel free, but instead he felt something else. He couldn't sleep. His mind kept going back to the past, to small moments he had forgotten. The way his father would fix a broken chair without saying a word. The way he would wake up early every day and leave quietly so no one else would be disturbed. The way he stood at the door that morning, saying nothing, but not walking away either. For the first time, Daniel began to see things differently. Maybe his father did care. Maybe he just did not know how to show it. That thought stayed with him all night. And then, unable to keep everything inside anymore, Daniel sat up, took a piece of paper, and began to write. That was the night he wrote the letter. He did not think too much. He did not try to make it perfect. He simply wrote what he felt. He wrote that he was sorry for leaving the way he did. He wrote that he did not understand his father before, but now he was starting to see things more clearly. He wrote about the past, about the silence between them, about the things they never said, and at the end of the letter, he wrote something he had never said out loud before. He wrote that he loved him. When he finished, he felt something change inside him. Not completely better, but lighter, as if he had finally said what had been inside him for so long. But the next morning, everything felt different. Daniel woke up, looked at the letter, and felt unsure. He read it again slowly this time. The words were still honest, still real, but now fear began to appear. What if his father did not understand? What if he did not respond? What if it only made things worse? A small voice inside him said, "Not now, maybe later. There is still time." And so he folded the letter carefully, put it into an envelope, and placed it in his bag. But he did not send it. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Life became busy, work, new people, new routines. The letter slowly moved from his bag to a drawer, from something important to something he would deal with one day. Years went by, and the letter stayed there, waiting. Then one day, Daniel got a phone call. It was short, quiet, and it changed everything. The call came on a quiet afternoon. Daniel was at work, sitting at his desk, looking at his screen, but not really thinking about anything. His phone rang, and at first he almost ignored it. It was an unknown number, but something made him pick it up. The voice on the other end was calm but heavy. His father had passed away. For a moment, Daniel didn't understand the words. They felt distant, like they were meant for someone else. He stood there, holding his phone, unable to move. The sounds around him faded. The room, the people, everything became quiet. It was as if the world had suddenly stopped. He didn't say much, just a few simple words. Then the call ended, but the silence stayed. Later that day, Daniel packed a small bag and took the first bus back to his hometown. The journey felt longer than usual. He looked out the window, but he didn't really see anything. His mind was empty, and at the same time full of things he could not understand. When he arrived, the town looked the same, but also different. The streets were familiar, the air felt the same, but something inside him had changed. The house stood there just as he remembered, quiet, still, waiting. When he walked inside, everything was in its place. The table, the old clock on the wall, the small kitchen. Nothing had moved, and yet something important was missing. A presence, a quiet life that had always been there. Now it was gone. The days that followed passed slowly. People came and went. Soft voices, simple words, small moments of comfort that didn't really reach him. Daniel nodded, said thank you, stood where he needed to stand, and did what needed to be done. But inside, he felt far away. After the funeral, when the house was finally empty, Daniel found himself walking into his father's room. He had not been there for years. The door opened with a soft sound. The room was simple, just like before. A bed, a small table, and by the window, an old chair. Daniel stopped for a moment. That chair. He remembered it clearly. Every evening his father would sit there, looking out the window as the sun went down. He never said much. He just sat there, quiet, as if he was thinking about something far away. Daniel walked slowly to the chair and sat down. It felt strange at first, then familiar. He looked out the window, the same view, the same sky, the same quiet world outside, and suddenly, memories began to return. Small moments, simple things, things he'd forgotten, or maybe things he had tried not to remember. He stayed there for a long time, not thinking too much, just sitting, just being. That night the house was completely silent. No voices, no movement, just the sound of time passing. Daniel went to his old room. It was still there, almost untouched. A part of the past, waiting. He placed his bag on the bed and sat down slowly. Then, without really thinking, he opened the bag. And there it was. The letter. For a moment he just looked at it. The same envelope. The same worn edges. The same words inside waiting. His hands moved slowly as he took it out. There was a slight shake, almost too small to notice. He unfolded the paper carefully, as if it might break. Then he began to read. Each word, one by one, slowly, as if time had stopped. The room was quiet, but the words felt loud inside him. Every line carried a feeling he had once tried to express. Every sentence brought back the night he wrote it. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I wish I had said this before. I love you. His voice was not loud, almost a whisper. But in that moment, it felt like everything he had never said was finally being heard. And then, something changed. For the first time, Daniel saw the truth clearly. The letter was never just about his father, it was about him. It was about all the words he'd been too afraid to say, all the feelings he had kept inside, all the moments he had chosen silence instead of honesty. It was not just a letter. It was everything he had left behind. And now, there was no one left to hear it. Then he folded the letter one last time, carefully, gently. He walked a few steps forward to the place where his father now rested, and he placed the letter there. No words, just a quiet goodbye. Daniel knew it was late. He knew he could not change the past. He could not go back and say the words when they mattered most. But he also understood something important, something simple, but real. Sometimes life does not give you a second chance. Sometimes the moment passes and it does not come back. And silence, the silence we choose, can stay with us longer than we expect. It can turn into something we carry for years, a quiet regret, a weight we don't always see but always feel. Daniel stood there for a final moment, then slowly turned and walked away. The sun was higher now, the day had begun. And for the first time in a long time, he felt a small sense of peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because he had finally faced the truth. So if there is something you want to say, don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until everything feels right. Because life does not always give you that chance. And one day you may find yourself with words you never said, and a letter that was never sent.